So how do you navigate conversations of race, especially in this racially charged climate that we are currently in right now?
That's a great question. I don't know that I do it perfectly or well, but we just try to keep it always top of mind when something happens in the news or something happens in our personal lives. We stop and say, okay, guys, what do you think about this? What does that tell you about this, that, or the other thing? So we were having racial conversations before George Floyd was killed, but certainly that was the catalyst to the larger national conversation. And we don't have the news at our house. We only have streaming, like we have Netflix and Disney Plus. So we don't watch, like they don't see things on the news in my house, but they of course see things at school and hear other people saying stuff. But I brought it up. I told them, I said, listen, you guys need to understand what has just happened to this man, to this person that could have been our neighbor, our friend. It could have been anybody that we know. And I need you to understand what's happened and the reaction that's going to be going on in our country now and the conversations that people are going to be having. And I want you to feel equipped to talk to your friends and to speak up if you hear somebody say something on the playground or in the classroom that you think would hurt somebody, then I want you to feel brave to say, actually, let's think about that. So I constantly try to make conversations out of it. And if something happens in our personal life with someone we know, or there's a comment that's made, I say, I bring it back to a person of color, specifically Black or not, in our lives. And I say, how would you have reacted if that was your friend so-and-so? And I bring it back to someone they know. Like, how would you feel if someone treated our friend so-and-so that way? Would that be right or would that be wrong? And where would that have been coming from? So, like I said, I don't know if I do it well, but I just try to do it a lot. I try to keep the conversation always going so that they know that our home is a safe place to talk about that stuff, and that it's really important that we talk about it, and that they have a responsibility to move into those places.
For sure.
We're blessed to have a handful of people of color in our lives. You know, my kids have like 2 or 3 friends that have spent the night at our house and that we've had dinner with and that have been in their home and they've been in their homes. But it's not a lot, you know, and I know that I'm probably in the minority of, you know, parents that my kids have some Black friends that they've been to their house, they know their parents, you know. So like, what about, I don't know what to say about that. Like, what should we all be doing, whether you have diversity in your life or not? Like, what are some things we can do, I guess, to raise these babies to be thinking about anti-racism work?
We talked about in group that one time, exposure. Just like if you know you live in this area where your grocery store is right down the street, and you go to the mall in this area, and you go here for entertainment, you go there for lounging, maybe like switching it up every now and again, like actually going to those areas.
Another part of town
where you usually don't go to. Let's go to the Walmart on the south side or something. Or let's go to this part. Let's go to Child's Park instead of Flora Wiley one day. Like, and having people just like being exposed to the fact that, oh, not everyone looks like me all the time. And that exposure probably is like the first step if you're not surrounded by people that don't look like you all the time.
That is so good.
And always empathy, treating people like people. And understanding that people have emotions and experiences and humanity. That's I feel like that's the reason why racism exists, is because people don't see each other as like
every person we meet is somebody's mama, sister, son, husband, somebody.
Exactly. And we stop at race and usually sex or gender, and we just stop right there and be like, we're different, we don't have nothing in common, and I'll be like, we're pretty similar human beings, no matter at what stage in life we are or what we look like.
That's right. That's good.
If you were having an opportunity to talk and tell parents one thing, just from this dialogue today, what would that one thing be?
Oh, so much pressure. I think it is not only don't be afraid to enter into these conversations, but feel convicted to enter into these conversations. Like, sitting out is really not an option, because they're going to learn they're going to pick stuff up. They're going to absorb it through their friends and their environment. And so it's up to us to steward how they interpret situations. So it's we really don't we can't sit out. We have to talk to them about it and make sure they feel safe to do that with us.
That's beautiful. That is perfect. What about you? One thing that you can say to parents and friends who need to have this conversation.
So become educated is the first thing. Become a smidge knowledgeable about what is happening. Now you will be challenged when having a conversation with somebody about race, especially if you're asking about an experience, but allowing yourself the humility to be wrong and to live in that and for a little bit and feel it, and then go out forth and educate yourself on how you can be better.
Yeah.
It's, as you say that, I also think about your experience entering into the conversation as a Black woman. What are some things that you will need to do in order to prepare yourself to engage in that conversation?
Definitely guard your heart, because some people this is someone else's experience. It may not be the most positive, and they may be coming with their own stuff that you have to be prepared for. So guard your heart. Come into it more in a head space than a heart space, if that makes sense, like more intellectual and more, because some people are more fact driven and that ethos doesn't really hit them. So guard your heart is the most important part, because if it gets too heavy or if it gets too out of hand for you where disrespect is happening and it's no longer productive, then you can be like, okay, you have a good day. I'm going to remove myself from this conversation. And God bless.
I love this idea of being open to dialogue, being open to the challenge, and also knowing that at any time you can choose to keep yourself safe. As we engage in these healing dialogues, I think what is most important is exactly what Taylor and Meg just highlighted. Just being open to not being correct all the time, open to creating safety before engaging in the dialogue. And then most importantly, making sure you're sharing your story with people who have earned the right to hear it.
That's good.
As we move forward in this, know that exposure is so important. Asking critical questions is even more important. And making sure that we have created the environment for healing dialogues is essential as we raise anti-racist babies. Thank you.